Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
2009 was a pretty average year for WWE, all things considered. You know, you still had John Cena and Randy Orton and Triple H at the top. But you also had other guys, you know, making their name. And today's video is going to be about one of those people, and his name is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy exploded in 2009 with popularity that even got him more merchandise sales than John Cena. He was the man in 2009, and there were a couple of other people, but Jeff Hardy was the main one. He made his biggest impact in WWE in that year, and today we're going to be talking about why Jeff Hardy never reached his full potential in WWE back in 2009. So, if you go back to January 1st, 2009, where it all started for Jeff in that year, he came into the year as WWE champion. He had won it at Armageddon 2008, and he was on SmackDown, so he was the world champion on SmackDown when the year started. He was in a feud with Edge, and he ended up losing that match at the Royal Rumble due to Matt Hardy costing Jeff and hitting him with the steel chair. Edge got the pin and won back the title. Jeff Hardy didn't get a one-on-one rematch. Instead, his rematch was in the Elimination Chamber, where he was unable to win. He was, I believe, the fourth man. Yeah, it was the fourth man eliminated right before Undertaker and Triple H. He then went on to feud with Matt Hardy, and they had an Extreme Rules match at WrestleMania. They had a stretch match on SmackDown and an I Quit match at Backlash. Jeff would lose the first two matches, but he would win the I Quit match to end the feud. Jeff Hardy, after that feud with Matt Hardy, he would then set his sights back on the World Heavyweight Championship, and he would challenge Edge at Judgment Day after winning a Fatal 4-Way match to earn that shot. The Fatal 4-Way also had Chris Jericho, Kane, and Rey Mysterio in it. Rey Mysterio, the Intercontinental Champion at the time. Jeff Hardy last won by pinning Rey Mysterio. And he went on to Judgment Day, and he almost had Edge beat, but Matt Hardy came out with his cast, because Jeff Hardy had broke his hand, and he came out with the cast and hit Jeff in the head. Edge hits a top rope execution DDT to defeat Jeff Hardy. But at this time, it was right around this time, because, you know, he was just so hot when he won the title, and he cooled off slightly during his feud with Matt Hardy. But I mean, as soon as that feud was over and he was back in the title picture, I mean, like, and even when he was feuding with Matt, he got the biggest reactions out of anybody every week on Raw or SmackDown. You know, the whole crowd would just be screaming Hardy over and over. And it eventually led to the rematch with him and Edge, because he was cheated out of his win, where they would have a ladder match at Extreme Rules. Jeff Hardy finally would win the World Heavyweight Championship. He actually had never won that at the time. But after that, he was cashed in on by CM Punk. And CM Punk won the world title. Jeff Hardy didn't even get to hold it for 10 minutes, you know. And so that's what kicked off the CM Punk-Jeff Hardy feud, which in my opinion was Jeff Hardy's best feud of 2009. It might be Jeff Hardy's best singles feud of all time, honestly. But yeah, everybody knows about that feud and how good it was. Not much can really be said about it. You know, like they had the rematch at the Bash, and at this point, CM Punk wasn't really a heel yet. He was kind of like a babyface who was trying to make a point, you know. But at the Bash, he kind of, you know, he was slowly turning heel. You know, he said his eye was injured, so he thought he kicked Jeff, but he kicked the referee, and he got himself disqualified. So after the match, Jeff Hardy went after CM Punk, and he laid him out on the entrance ramp. And CM Punk, when the refs get between them, CM Punk, you can see him at the very end, he starts laughing, and that just lets you know, like, yeah, he did that on purpose. Leading up to Night of Champions was because Jeff was going to get a rematch. Leading up to that, in my opinion, Punk was a heel, but most people say he was still a face. He just would, you know, that's when he started talking about Jeff Hardy's drug problems and all that, the suspensions. But in the end, at Night of Champions, Jeff Hardy said he was going to bring the World Championship back to himself, and he did just that with a Swanton Bomb. Jeff Hardy is a 2-time world heavyweight champion. And this was probably Jeff Hardy's best world title reign in WWE. He had 3 of them, and they were all pretty short. This was the second shortest, but I believe it was his best. He did his best work with the world title right before he left in July 2009. He came out on Friday Night SmackDown the next week and had an open challenge where John Morrison would challenge Jeff Hardy. And this is only 5 days after he won the title, so he's already challenged, defending his championship. That was a really good match, and he ends up defeating John Morrison to retain his world title. But after the match, CM Punk comes out and he attacks Jeff. Now the next week on SmackDown, it's Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk for the world title. But there's going to be an enforcer because they keep having these brawls where the referees have to come out and break them up. Well, it's revealed that Matt Hardy is going to be the enforcer. So Jeff's like, all right, I pretty much lost the championship. But when it comes time for the match, Matt will not look at Jeff. I remember that. He wouldn't look Jeff in the face during this match. But in the end, Matt does a fast count, 1, 2, 3, and gives Jeff the win. So he kind of cheats for Jeff, but Jeff was looking crazy, wow, you really just did that shit, crazy. But yeah, so Jeff retained the world title. CM Punk, after the match, beat up Jeff some more. And the next week on SmackDown, Jeff was set to face the Hart Dynasty in a handicap match. And this was, I believe, the week after Teddy Long said, you're going to have a match against Jeff, but it's going to be a TLC match at SummerSlam. So at SummerSlam, it's set to be Jeff Hardy to defend the World Heavyweight title against CM Punk in a tables, ladders, and chairs match in the main event of the night of SummerSlam, the second biggest show of the year, and they're main eventing over John Cena and Randy Orton. And they're main eventing over DX's return to the ring. So that just showed you how important this feud was. So Jeff faces the Hart Dynasty in a handicap match, and he's just so beat up because CM Punk's done put the chair around his neck and pushed him into the ring post. He's really messed him up, so he ends up losing that match to the Hart Dynasty. CM Punk would then try to come out again with the steel chair and really mess Jeff Hardy up because Teddy Long said it's if Jeff can compete at SummerSlam, he'll get his shot. So Punk ends up tries to push Jeff into the ring post. Matt Hardy comes out and saves Jeff so that Matt Hardy turns face and he's back on Jeff's side. Hart Dynasty come out to assist CM Punk, and John Morrison then comes out to even things up with the Hardys. So this sets up a 6-man tag on the last episode before SummerSlam. It's the Hardy Boys and John Morrison versus the Hart Dynasty and CM Punk. Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy having their first match as a team in a long time, on SmackDown, at least a year. Well, maybe not a year, but close to a year. And Hardys and Morrison end up winning that match. Jeff Hardy's still the World Heavyweight Champion, and they end SmackDown on top. At SummerSlam, Jeff Hardy and CM Punk had a great TLC match. It's my favorite match of all time, to be honest. Jeff Hardy hit a swanton off a ladder. He hit CM Punk, and the EMTs came out and put Jeff on a stretcher. While that's happening, CM Punk, he sees the opportunity, so he starts climbing the ladder. Jeff Hardy realizes that as he's got the neck brace on, he's in the stretcher. So he flies out of the stretcher and the neck brace. He gets in the ring, he stumbles in the ring. Jeff Hardy, he's he's the greatest, bro. You really think he was hurt. He stumbles in the ring, bro, and he's doing his best. And he gets in there, man. CM Punk's almost at the top of the ladder, but Jeff Hardy gets to the top and he meets him there. And they're just going out, but Jeff's just so beat up after these past few weeks. Well, they get to the top and they're just beating each other. But in the end, CM Punk kicked Jeff in the head, and I think he poked him in the eye, and he pushed him off. And Jeff goes back first on the mat. CM Punk wins back the World Heavyweight title. And we're getting to the end of Jeff Hardy's run in WWE because on the next episode of SmackDown, he came out after CM Punk was talking to the crowd and he was celebrating his world title win. Jeff came out to say, I want my rematch tonight in a steel cage, which was already announced. CM Punk then said, look, man, there's only room for one of us on SmackDown, so one of us has to go. I remember watching this live as a kid, bro. And it was set. Teddy Long came out. He said, if y'all agree to it, that's the match. Loser leaves SmackDown. And they had a steel cage, and it was actually a really good match. Not as good as the TLC match, but it was good. CM Punk ended up beating Jeff Hardy. In the end, they was on top of the cage, and he thumbed Jeff Hardy in the eye, pushed him off the cage. CM Punk retains the world title, and Jeff Hardy is out of the WWE. I was sad at the time, and I guess he was going through some substance issues, and soon it'd be legal issues. But Jeff Hardy, he had a great year in 2009, but he never reached his full potential. And why is that? I think now that we went through his whole run from 2009 in January to August when he left. I mean, honestly, it's all on him. He left when he was at his most popular, which nobody ever. I don't think that there has been anybody but him that's did what he did. He left at his most popular, and he went to TNA, and he thought he was going to change things around for the company. And I mean, he could have, but not when you, it's just hard to do. It's hard to be the man of the company to change stuff when you got like pending legal charges, it's not the best look. No matter how much the fans like you and how popular you are and how good you are, it's just hard. So I'd have to say he's the reason, because in my opinion, he should be up there with the John Cena's and the Randy Ortons. And I think Jeff would have been if he wouldn't have got, caught in all his issues. Jeff Hardy would be maybe the greatest of all time. Maybe I'm stretching it a little bit. But I mean, just think if he stayed in WWE, like all the world titles he would have gained, he probably would have main evented WrestleMania. Maybe. But he went to TNA, and I mean, he had some good years there, but I mean, I honestly, I look at that as a waste. Jeff should have been the top guy in WWE for years to come, but instead, we just got, about a year of Jeff with the chase for the world title. We got about a year, which in my opinion, that just wasn't enough. So, of course, Jeff is in WWE right now, and I really hope that maybe he can get back to the top one day. But I think everybody can agree. Honestly, it's sad to say, but it doesn't matter what he does. He's never going to get that spark that he had in 2009. And that's not because he's not talented enough or he's not good enough. It's just a different time. Like, it's a different day, and there's just, it's certain things happen in times just because of it's like Kofi Kingston when he won the WWE Championship. That happened, and now, people were going crazy for it, and now people don't even remember it, like things just happen out of nowhere. It's kind of what happened with Jeff. He was like the new guy. We had never seen him at the top, but now we've seen him at the top. So will he ever get the world title again? I don't know. I think it's a good chance he will. I think because he said that is one thing that he wants to do. But Jeff Hardy didn't reach his potential in 2009 because he left too early. He was selling more merchandise, like I said, more than John Cena and anybody else there, Triple H. Jeff Hardy was a man in 2009 and should have carried WWE for years to come, but instead, in 2009, we got a great 8 months of Jeff Hardy, and he won 3 world titles. We had 3 world titles that year. So that's going to be the video today.